Hello there. Just recently I played the last round in this LoneWolf under 1800 Lichess 45-45 tournament. So let me show you the game. You can see that I won the game. So it's nice to win the last game in the round. It's good for self-competence, but unfortunately I didn't make it to the first three. I think I'll probably end up in the fifth or sixth place in this tournament. Okay, let's go right to the game. There were some instructive moments, so I think you will find it interesting. So, my opponent opened the game with e4. I responded in my usual manner, so just e5, and now he went for King's Gambit. And well, this tells you that the game will most likely be wild and crazy with not much positional maneuvering and fixed pawn structures like you saw in the last game, and well, you have to play with the position you have. So I responded d5. So this is one of my responses to the King's Gambit, just to make the Folkbeer counter gambit and just to play for equality very fast. Another thing I sometimes play is the classical defense, so just bishop to f5, and then the idea is to make his life complicated by not allowing him to castle, and he usually responds by playing c3 and then trying to close up this diagonal. But this bishop usually retreats to b6, and it's very annoying throughout the game. But okay, it has some other fallbacks, this classical defense. But okay, I played d5 here, so Folkbeer counter gambit. He played knight to f3. Usual response is to take the pawn, and then there are two ways you can continue it. You can make this a real gambit and play e4, so trying to get some counterplay and some initiative by giving up the pawn. And the most and one of the frequent and here you can often see this knight to c3 move, which is proven to be wrong. There is a Morphy game. I have this on this channel. I analyze this game in which Morphy demonstrates why this approach is wrong, because this pawn is very annoying. This knight can get pinned very soon, and so on. So if you face this move, the best thing you can do is just to undermine this pawn immediately. And also another even more simpler thing to do is just to take the f4 pawn, and now the position is completely equal, and you can just continue your with your normal development and just play some normal chess. Okay, but he didn't do this. He played knight to f3, so I took the pawn on f4, and he now took my pawn on d5, and we basically transposed to the variation I have just shown you before. So I just need to, my strategy now is just to stick to the classical general principles and to develop all my pieces and try to play for activity. Knight to f3, now attacking this pawn. Here the mistake would be just to grab this pawn, because he has this knight c3 developing with tempo. Then, for example, if I retreat my queen, he can play something like bishop c4, and now you can see that he has three pieces developed, and he'll very soon castle and make some pressures on the f file, and I have all my pieces on the back rank. So you have to think about development first of all. So this is why I played knight to f6, and now I can think about taking the pawn with my knight, and he can play pawn to c4 here, trying to protect the knight, but then I will have a huge advantage in development. And if you remember one of my previous games, I was the white in similar position. It was position after Scandinavian defense, and he didn't take the pawn, and I defended the pawn with c4. Or it was a reversed position, so I mean, maybe it was reversed, so it was I'm not sure. No, yes, I was white, and exactly. So very similar position, but I was white, and I played c4, and somehow I got away with this. He didn't punish my lack of development, so I ended up just with a pure pawn up and ended up winning the game. Actually, I'm not sure if this happened in this tournament or in one of my rapid games. I'm not sure, but the point is relevant. Okay, so he didn't go for this. Instead, he played bishop to c4. So he is protecting this knight, but not enough. But the good idea is that he's developing and he's preparing to castle. Now I took the pawn. It's okay to take the pawn now, because well, if he takes, I can take, and it's not then my queen takes the piece which is already developed, and it's not such a waste of tempi as it were if I was to take the pawn with the queen. And now he played d4, which is a natural move, a good move, putting the pawn in the center, controlling the center squares, and so on. And now I was thinking about what to do. And here I started to make some positional mistakes, because I was in the mood, I was in this greedy mood. So if you can look at this position, I am pawn up. And not only that I'm a pawn up, but this pawn on f4 is very annoying for white, because it hinders his development. He cannot develop his bishop. If he puts his rook, it will block his rook. So if there was only a way, for example, if I would have two moves to play in a row, that then I could play something like h6 and then g5 or something like that, and or maybe just bishop to e7 and then g5, so to hold to this f4 pawn, which, well, it gives me material advantage because I'm a pawn up, and also it hinders his development. So I was thinking about this pawn too much, and as you will see in the rest of the game, I completely neglected my development in order to keep the pawn, which, well, objectively I cannot keep, because I don't have 3 moves in a row. If I would have 3 moves in a row, that then it would be great. So how can I defend this pawn? I was thinking this. So of course, playing something like bishop d6 is out of the question, because now I'm just a piece down. So I devised another kind of plan. So I played queen to e7 with several ideas. You can also notice that I have maybe this e3 square for my knight somewhere in the future. So my idea was here something along these lines. Okay, I was thinking about using maybe this square for my knight, but then I had to take back with the pawn, and this pawn will not be cannot be defended. So I was thinking about, if he blocks, I can just exchange queens, and then I can play this knight to b6 move with a tempo on his unprotected bishop, and then after he moves the bishop somewhere, I can put my bishop on d6 and defend this pawn. So this was my idea, and this is how it played out, but I didn't correctly calculated everything. So queen to e2, I took the queen, he took back, and now I play this knight to b6 move, so with tempo on his bishop. He played bishop to b3, and now I wanted to play this bishop to d6 move, but then I have to think about c4. So for example, if I play this and he played c4, then he threatens to fork me. So I have to run away somehow, and I cannot defend this pawn anymore. So this is what I realized at this moment, and back here I didn't see this this c5 possibility in this position, so I didn't calculate far enough. And okay, after this all played out, I played a5 now. Well, this is I think useful move, because it threatens to capture the bishop, so it comes with a tempo, so it doesn't cost anything, and I can get some space on the on the queen side for nothing, and also I have this b4 square which can be maybe useful in the future. So he played a4 here, okay, and now I took some time to think about this position, and I decided to play knight bishop to this 6, and you can see I'm 17 minutes, and now I am, so I took almost 8 minutes, so it's almost 25% of my total time just to make this one move, because I was afraid of this c5, and I was thinking, okay, if he does play c5, this was my thinking. I'm not sure it is okay, but maybe it's not so wrong. Then I saw that I have this nice b4 square for my bishop, which is a nice outpost, and maybe in the future, maybe even the knight could occupy this outpost, because most of his pawns are passed here. And of course then he'll take my pawn, but then I have to think about well, this pawn, and if I try to defend it like this, then he can play just c5, and then this pawn is attacked. So the problem is that both of my pawns are under attack by his bishops, either directly or indirectly. So I have to think about a lot of things here. So this is why I took some time to think, and then I realized, okay, I cannot calculate everything, but I will probably not lose if I play bishop to d6, and maybe put the bishop on b4. But well, luckily for me, he made a blunder here, so he didn't play anything of the sort, but instead he played knight to e5. And well, you can see that my position suddenly got much easier, because I can just take the knight, he can take back, and now he has this very weak pawn. I am still pawn up. I don't have I don't need to be afraid about this knight. For example, this knight here. Sorry, just let me get back to this position. Okay, before this move. This knight here controls the g5 square, which is very important if I want to stick to my pawn. So once this knight is removed, I have more freedom to play on the king side and try to hold on to this pawn. So he played a knight to e5. I took the knight, he took back, and now I have this nice target for future isolated pawn. And also I was thinking that I can hold to this pawn, and I played g5, which is actually a mistake, because there is a very common pattern which I know. And as you know, I used to play King's Gambit myself on many occasions, so I know about this trick, but I just somehow forgot it. I don't know. So the idea is to play h4 here, and well, I cannot support this pawn, because if I play h6, he takes. I cannot take back, because then my rook will fall. And also, due to his a5 pawn, I cannot play f6, because he'll just take it. Okay, so this was a mistake, this g5, and if he had realized that he has h4 on his disposal, I will be in trouble. But luckily for me, he didn't. He played king to f2, and now I'm just a pure pawn up in a better position. So he has a weak pawn. I don't have weaknesses. I have nice pawn structures, and it's, in fact, from this moment, it's very easy to play. You just need to make sure that you don't make any blunders, that you stick to your pawns. So you have to be careful that you don't start just dropping the pawns, which often happens to me, especially in the blitz games. I just start dropping the pawns in this kind of positions. So you need to activate your king. Ideally, your king should be coordinated with your pawns, so that means that your king is supporting your pawns, it's protecting your pawns, and it's also enabling your pawns to progress. And the exchanges are, in principle, good for you, because you are up material. and so it's a very easy game to play from this point. So bishop to e6. Now I want to exchange the bishop. This bishop is very strong piece, and I want to, of course, to exchange it, and you can see that he cannot stop the exchange. If he allows me to capture, he will get another weakness, a double pawn, and if he captures, then I undouble my pawns. And he doesn't have any much choice. He can maybe try to go to bishop a2, but then again he will just have the rook, which doesn't do anything on a2. So he decided to take, I took back, and now you can see that my pawn structure is very healthy suddenly. Knight to d2, he's developing, knight to c6, I'm also developing my pieces. Okay, but like I said in the beginning, I just ran a little fast through this. This was not a good way to play. So I was lucky that I could hold to this pawn only because he didn't see this h4 idea. But if you just come back, okay, you can see how underdeveloped I am here. So all my pieces except this knight, which doesn't do much on b6, are on my back rank. So and all this was just to keep the pawn which cannot be kept. So the much better play, the much better strategy, maybe even here, was just to give away this pawn and continue with fast development. So it could be either knight or bishop, or maybe bishop here to pin his knight. Knight to c6, trying to develop this bishop. Maybe d6 is a good square. Maybe not if he captures. Maybe here. So think about something like this and just try to develop fast and give away this pawn. By holding this pawn, I made a mistake because I got in the bad position with my pieces which are undeveloped and or uncoordinated. So they're not just undeveloped, but they are scattered around over the board, just to try to keep the pawn, which I would have lost anyway if my opponent just played this correctly. So the fact that I got in the better position and I got to keep my pawn and eventually develop my pieces and coordinate my pieces is more due to the luck than due to my skill. So this is something I have to learn from this game, and maybe also you can learn as well. Don't hang to this kind of wandering pawns if you are underdeveloped. So, and this is also I can say this is when you play weaker opponents. I mean weaker in rating, or even the opponents your own strength. Then you will not learn much about from your mistakes, because the opponents which are weaker or equal than you, they will not punish your mistakes, and then you can get into mode of thinking that you are doing great, that you are playing great chess, but in fact you are making mistakes which go unpunished by your opponents. And this is why when you play the stronger players, you learn much more, because the stronger players will punish your mistakes, and then you will learn from your mistakes. And this is a good example, this game, because you can. I realized now that I played this wrong after the analysis, after the post-mortem. I saw the game, but if I wasn't to do this detailed analysis later, then I could think, oh, I played great. I stick to the pawn. I ended up with the end game with the pawn up, and I just easily won the game. And then I could be in the error, thinking that this strategy of holding the pawn by any cost is a good strategy, which in fact it's not. If my opponent was a stronger player than me, then he would have punished me. He would take my pawn and be better developed and had a better position, and I would lose this game in a shameful manner. So this is maybe another lesson. If you analyze your games, if you play with your weaker opponents or your opponents which are equal to you, then you have to think about how could he could he have punished you in the game for your mistakes, and then try to learn from your mistakes. So my mistake was here to hold to the pawn. Okay, so let's get back to the game. And like I said, I was lucky enough that well, at this moment I practically solved all my problems. I have everything developed. I'm pawn up. My pawn structure is healthy, so I managed to solve all these problems. But okay, I was lucky. So rook to e1, and now I'm just targeting this pawn. You can see that I can multiple attack it from the several. There are several ways I can attack it. I can attack this pawn. This is one way. Also put rook here. So I'm now just targeting this pawn, and he has a dark square bishop, so I want to put my king on the light squares, so he cannot check. So this is a natural square for the king, supporting my pawns. And my strategy is maybe to put the king on f5, and then you can see that all these pawns are very well coordinated with the king and protected. And this is one principle in the endgame. You want to have your king close to your pawns, especially if you have a pawn majority, and if you have the pawns which are rolling to the promotion, then you want to have your king near your pawns. And well, it depends if you are defending or if you are attacking. If you are defending, then you want to have your king on the side of the board when you have a minority, so that you can stop his majority promoting. But if you are the one who is promoting, that you want to have your king next to your pawns, even if this is a majority, you want to have your king there. So this was my plan. So rook to d8 here. I'm just trying to activate my rook. Knight to f3. Okay. So now he's threatening just to capture this g5 pawn, so I played h6, getting away with this threat. He played h4 here. Okay, it doesn't do anything. At this moment I can just exchange the pawns. I don't have anything against this. I played rook to g8 here, because you can see that my pawn is now attacked twice. So I played rook to g8 to protect it. He took the pawn, I took back, everything is protected. Knight to d2 now, and now I continue my attack on his weakness, on e5 pawn. So rook to d5, attacking the pawn twice. And now he plays this tricky move, knight to e4, and I have to say that I almost fell for it. And if you remember the last game, I fell for the exactly the same trap. And this is when you have the knight which can fork 3 pieces at the same time, and this is it. So what can I do? I cannot stop this anyway, in any way. So if there was not, luckily I didn't see this move, I have to admit. So by playing knight to d5, I allowed this opportunity of triple fork. And he played knight to e4, and I almost automatically grabbed the pawn, and then he would just win the exchange here. When even if he did win the exchange, it will be an equal game, and even then I would probably be better, because I would have connected pawns and pass pawn here, and I would have 2 pawns for the exchange, so I would still be better probably. But well, I was surprised by this move. So what should I do? Of course, the only defense is knight to d7, and now I'm covering this square, and everything is okay. But I'm lucky that this knight was here. If this knight was not here, so imagine that this knight doesn't exist, there is no way I can stop this threat, because well, I can play. The king cannot take, because this is protected. I can move, for example, I can move my rook, and well, I have to give up the exchange. Again, I think I am better, because I can then take this pawn, and I have some opportunities. Let me just turn on the engine. I'm just interested what the evaluation is. I just want to see the evaluation of this position. 0.0, 0.1. Okay, so completely equal position. So from the computer perspective, this is equal position, but I think from human perspective, black still has some good chances here. Okay, but luckily for me, I managed to stop this threat. And then he played knight to f6 anyway, and this was well, just hurrying up the end of the game. So knight takes f6, e takes f6, and now I'm just bringing up my king, and you will see that this pawn will also fall. b3, I just took the pawn. Bishop to b2, now developing the bishop with a check, but I can just move up my king. So you can see that my king is now close to the center, and this is something you want to achieve when you have your pawns rolling. So you can see that my king is protecting all my pawns, and it's also supporting the advancement of my pawns. So this is what you want to have, and it's also unassailable. You have to think in the game, 2 games before this, it was around 9, I put my king surrounded with pawns, and then I got checkmated. Okay, it was an over game, but still the downside of having your king surrounded with pawns is that these pawns are depriving the king of many squares, so you have to be careful about being checkmated here. So, for example, this could be unpleasant if I didn't have this square covered twice, so I didn't have to be afraid about this. Knight to e2, he's trying to double the rooks. I'm now doubling the rooks as well on the d file. Rook a to e1. I'm now just taking the opportunity to exchange pieces because I'm 2 pawns up and winning. So rook to d2. He played king to g1. I just exchanged the rooks, and now I have this pawns rolling. So e5. He played c3. I played e4. So the threat here is to play e3 and then maybe king to d2. I can also bring up now my knight here, supporting the pawns. So, well, these pawns cannot be stopped because I have everything under control. So I have my king, my knight, and my rook all supporting my rolling pawns. So he tried to bring up his king as well. I just advanced my pawn, and now he played king to f3. So thinking that maybe he could somehow stop the pawns, but like I said, when you surround the king with the pawns, then there is usually checkmaking opportunity. So in this position, there are 2 mates in one. You can well, pause the video, or maybe you already seen. So the 2 ways to deliver mate. So one way is just to play pawn to g4 checkmate, and in the game I played knight to e5 with the same outcome. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I hope you did learn something from this game. I did, and this is the end of the tournament. So this is round 11. The round is not still over, so I don't know what is my final standing. I will put the link below, so maybe you can check the link if you want to see my standing. I think I will be on 5th or 6th place. I had 8 points, so 8 points out of 11. And the gentleman on the first place has 9 points, and third and second are 8.5. And so I'm 4th, maybe, or 5th or 6th. Okay. In the next, well, now I will probably have several weeks between the rounds, and in the next round I will join this open tournament. Now I'm no longer under 1800. You can see that well, my current rating now is this was 1812. I think it's around 1820. So I no longer qualify for under 1800, and well, I think playing with having the opportunity to play with stronger players will even benefit me more. I will be able to learn from my mistakes. Like I said, the stronger players tend to punish your mistakes, and then you can learn from them. So I'm looking forward to this next tournament, and of course I will analyze all my games here, and also I will maybe analyze some of the other games I play, if I play some interesting rapid games or some interesting online games as well. And also from my Patreon supporters, if you are a Patreon supporter and if you have this plan, which is not pawn but for example knight or bishop plan, then I get to analyze your games as well here on the channel. So check out my Patreon site if you want to have your games analyzed. Join my Patreon and I will gladly analyze your games on this channel as well. Okay, thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel, leave the comment below, share the video with your friends and acquaintances, and I'll see you very soon with more chess. Cheers.